Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about art, and I'm going to show you something I made. I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite art forms, which is quilting. And I'm going to show you examples from quilting that date back many generations in the South, called the Quilts of Gee's Bend. They're from a small country town, a rural town in a place called Gee's Bend, Alabama. So first, what I'll do is show you the quilt that I made. In college, I studied textiles, which is like sewing and fabric and how to make things out of fabric. And last year, right before I left New York City, I made a big quilt. I had found fabric all over the place, bought and found fabric, and I made this quilt. Here, I'll show it to you. You see that? And I put tassels on the ends, on the corners, I mean. Do you see the diagonal lines going across? There's my quilt. Okay. And the back is my favorite part almost. It's a very light blue and brown pattern all of the back. But did you notice how I put squares together anywhere I wanted on this quilt? And then I matched some of them to make lines. But I just put them anywhere I wanted because I liked how the fabrics look next to each other. Okay, let's put that over there. Now I'm going to show you some much more beautiful, famous quilts called the Quilts of Gee's Bend. This is a big book I have about these quilts. They were on exhibition in Philly in 2005, many years ago, at the Philadelphia Art Museum. Let me go to my notes here for a second so I can tell you some things about these quilts. So these quilts have been some of my favorite artworks in the whole world ever since I discovered them. They fall into the category of modern art, and they are considered a kind of abstract art because they have patterns and shapes and combinations of color that are like kind of unexpected. You might not think that someone would do that. So these women use shapes, and they use geometric shapes in a very simple way to cut out fabric and put them together in these very interesting patterns. There's a pattern called housetop that reminds the women who made them of a house, and it's a bunch of zany stripes and polka dots and different colored fabrics all put together. So when these women made these quilts, I'll show you some of them, they did not draw a straight line or a pattern on the fabric to make the quilt. Let's see if you can see. They just cut out the fabric. Whoops. They just cut out the fabric and they put it anywhere they wanted. Okay. See a close up? All right. There's some others. So they made these patterns out of fabrics and materials that they had at their homes on the farms that they lived on in Gee's Bend countryside, a far off part of Alabama, where they were not around a lot of other people, but they were around their family and their grandmothers and their great-grandmothers and their daughters, and all their family members were together all the time, singing and doing work and making quilts. So that's how they learned to make these quilts. And they made these quilts to remember their family members. So sometimes they would make the quilts out of a pair of pants that someone had. Here's one that used cotton, like your shirt, denim, like your jeans, and a little bit of wool, like a sweater, okay? And this is called the house top pattern, all right? See how interesting that is and how they just put the shapes of fabric where they wanted, okay? I'll show you another interesting one of different fabrics that they found, and they appreciated these fabrics and they recycled these fabrics, so that's why they put them all together. And they didn't want to waste anything, okay, when they made these quilts. I know the quality of the picture is not great. I wonder if I turn on a light. Hold on. Maybe that'll be better. Okay, back to my notes real quick. Let's see. So one of the women who made these quilts said she didn't draw straight lines or patterns to make these quilts. She said, whatever happens, happens. That's art. And as quilts, a lot of times, as kids, a lot of times they were with their relatives, their grandmothers and mothers when they were sewing the quilts, and they would sit kind of under a table where they were sewing the quilt. And they would listen to them singing and praying or talking, and they would see the needle go through the fabric under the quilt, and they would hear them talking about their children and what they hoped they would be when they grow up. And so these kids who saw their relatives sewing the big quilt blankets learned how to sew that way. A lot of them didn't do much else to play except softball and quilting. Also, the quilts were made around the civil rights movement for something called the Freedom Quilting Bee in 1966, and people started buying them. So this community, all these quilters and women who sewed together, made money for their community and to live from these quilts because they were so big and beautiful, and they were keeping them warm, and other people wanted them to keep them warm too. Some of these women even met Martin Luther King Jr. He came down there during the civil rights movement and met them and sang with them. Another thing about these quilts is that they are huge. This is important. The quilts are huge. Here's a quilt that is 80 by 74 inches. Show you another one that's really big. 78 by 98 inches. Oh my. So because they did not want to waste any of the fabric, the quilts were very, very large. They made them really big. Here's one. I'll show you. Here's one. You can tell the edges are a little bit crooked, right? But that's okay because she thought it was beautiful. She didn't want to draw lines and make it perfect, or she, use a pencil. She just cut pieces the way she wanted, and she thought it was beautiful. So that's the way she did it. Let me show you one, find one or two more. So I really love these quilts because they showed me that people could be content with what they had and make something and be grateful for what they had and make something beautiful out of it. Okay. All right. So there you have it. Let's see if there's anything else I want to tell you about the quilts of Gee's Bend. So mostly these quilts represent the traditions of these women, many generations of these women in Gee's Bend. And they're very famous now. They've been through museums, but the women are just grateful that they have this tradition to keep their community together, to keep them warm, and to keep their memories alive. And they're glad that they've been able to make a living from this talent that they have. So it really shows us that when you have a talent, God can use it any way he chooses to, and it may really help other people. It may bring you blessings that you never expected. And it also shows the value of saving things and recycling and finding another purpose for things, just like you guys did 3D art, and you found new cool ways to bring something old and useless to life, like a toilet paper roll turns into a telescope, or whatever. I remember in third grade, someone made headphones, Beats headphones out of yogurt cups. So that's different than quilts. But these women appreciated what they had, and they saw the value in it and the beauty in it, and they made quilts out of them. I want to see if I can find one more. Well, you get the picture. They worked really hard, and they needed to keep warm, so they made these quilts to keep warm, to remember their relatives who were making quilts, and to provide for their children, to provide warmth and comfort, big blankets for their children. One woman called her quilts My Way. She made them the way she wants. Here's just two more, and then I'll maybe say goodbye for now. Okay. So here's a My Way. You see that? Here's another My Way. All right. So there you have it. Let's see if I can find a picture of these ladies. Well, here's a famous quilter, Luella Petway. There she is. That's Luella. Oh, sorry for the shakiness. Doing what we can here. All right. Well, it's been fun to visit with you. If you have any questions about art before we're all done, about old assignments you want to turn in, or anything, let me know. Hit me up. Hope you're all safe and that you can see the beauty around you, just like these women did. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.